thank you everybody for showing up. We've got a good group of people here in the Civic Center, and it looks like we've got plenty of people that are joining us online. So thank you, everybody. Tonight, I'll just kind of go through here. What we're up to is tonight we have our competition. Again, tonight's competition is open, so no specific category. Looking forward to seeing the images. Thank you, Jane, by the way, for all that you do for these image competitions with, I know how many hours it takes to compile all the images, put them in the different categories and get them ready for the judges and so forth and that. So thanks again for all you do with that. Having been in your shoes, I know that's a lot of work. And thank you, Bruce. Also, are you doing the compiling the scores tonight?
Yes.
Great. Again, tonight's competition is open. I think we have 65 images. 64 images tonight. So we'll try and move through those fairly quickly. Your judge is yours truly. So I will. So looking forward to it. Actually,
He introduces himself.
there you go. I
Love his work. I know that.
wouldn't even do that part of it.
Man
So-
of many talent.
So, but no, I'm really looking forward to it. I haven't had a chance to glance through them earlier this morning and was very impressed with a lot of what I saw. So thank you.
One quick shout out to Ben Evans. He is calling in from the Yukon Territory. So we're out there.
I just said, good evening, everyone.
There we go.
Hi, Ben.
Are you ready, Michael?
I think I'm set.
Okay, all right.
Well, just real quick, I'll just make a couple notes on that too. Again, amazing images. I saw so many today when I went through these. Again, I didn't spend a whole lot of time on them, but enough to where I wanted to at least take a good look at it. Look at it from a judge's perspective. Couple of things. I even though I'm part of EA and so forth and that, they have their 12 elements and so on and so forth. But I don't necessarily judge by all of those 12 elements in that. I go by what I think looks good and what I think feels good to me in that. One of the things I will say is a lot of times I will give a little bit of extra credit if something really has a lot of strong impact to me. Like as soon as it hits the screen or as soon as I open it up, there's something that just really makes me want to look at it for longer than a minute or two, whatever that. So I will, give higher scores for that. And then conversely, like the technical issues, so the dust spots, which I didn't really see any yet. So if you want to, I won't come up too much today. But dust spots or blown out highlights or things like that, sometimes those can take a score down also. So sometimes I will put those out. There's some of them that are just amazing images, but maybe I didn't give it a 10. Doesn't mean that I found anything wrong with it. It may just not have had as much impact as maybe a couple of the ones that I give a 10 to. I just want to get some of the sort of general comments, but overall, I was really impressed with a lot of what I saw. And we'll see.
Are you ready?
I'm all ready.
Okay, the first one, A Measure of Man.
This one I gave a score of 8. I like it a lot. I like the tonality of it. I like the color harmony, the oranges, the reds, colored with the shades of blue that are in there. When I looked into the sky, I looked at the lines and a little bit of banding in there. That was part of why, from a technical standpoint, I took a little bit of the score off. And then my eye kind of goes to that lower left corner and kind of takes me away from the subject being the person that's in the middle, because again, there's a brightness. I expect that to be bright up there in the part where the sun is coming in on the cave. It's just a little bit hot over on that left side that was pulling my eye over in that direction. So I gave it an 8.
Abstract 291 Hippie.
This one I gave a 9. I love the colors. The other thing is I liked the fact that we had an abstract meeting, a show program, I guess it was a couple of months ago in that. So I like to see people who go out and experiment with some of the things that we have in some of our demonstration meetings and that. So I think this is something that somebody took it upon themselves to go and try something a little bit different than they probably otherwise typically are photographing. I gave it a 9. I liked the colors of it. I thought, my eye it kept my attention for a long time. Let's put it that way. I just wanted to keep looking at all the different sparkles and colors and textures that are throughout. So I gave it a 9.
Baby twins.
Yeah, this one was also a 9. Very cute. I like the way that it is framed in there. It's the focus is like perfect, dead perfect on the two birds' eyes. They're right on the same focal plane. I wish maybe there'd be like a little bit of focus on the front part of the nest, but not that important. The fact that you got the eyes in focus, I think, is the most important thing. When I talk about the framing, I like the way that the leaves are framing, and then we've got whatever the that orange, that brighter texture in the center is holding my attention and kind of focusing right towards the birds that are in there. You know, a lot of times on the images in that we talk about rule of thirds and so forth and that. I'm not a stickler on that one. I think for this photo, the center piece works just fine. One comment maybe just on the very bottom, there's a little bit of a twig there. It's not a huge distraction, but I would maybe remove that. So I give it a 9.
Bell in bloom.
So this one I gave a 7. I liked when I first looked I love the flowers that are the main part of the image. A couple of suggestions would be maybe to crop it. I don't know that we need quite as much of the section over to the far left and over to the far right. And I would almost maybe just crop it to it would be a fairly tight crop, even like the 3 primary flowers that are up there in the upper middle. If you wanted to go a little bit wider crop, you could include all of the ones that are there in focus. The other thing that I would do if you had the ability to is maybe take a step over to the right and not have to where the bright parts of whatever the I'll call it flowers, the foliage that's back behind those 3 that are, I think, the main subject. They're a little bit distracting just because there's brightness right behind them. I think if you were to take a step to the right, maybe you could position it to where those 3 purple flowers are up against that brown tree trunk that's in the background. And I think that would make a little bit stronger image. So I think it's got potential, a little bit of cropping. And so I gave that one a 7.
Big boy 4014.
So this one I gave a 10. I've seen several photos of this train as it was coming through this last week, and I've seen some impressive ones. And this is a really nice one. I like the colors in it. There were a couple of things I was trying to figure out here. Like the one, by the way, it's nice and sharp throughout. Except I'm trying to figure out down on the lower left on my screen, anyways, the very front piece. It was like just slightly out of focus. I couldn't figure out why that would be because the numbers on the front of the train are all really good in focus in that too. Although it's weird, that's what I see on my screen here, but when I look up there, it looks like it's pretty good in focus. So anyhow, I like this one. I like the colors. I like the way that it was done. Also, I like the fact that in photographing something like this, where you have an event that's coming through, finding a location where you don't have a lot of distractions that are out there in the background. I think this one was done well. So I gave that one a 10.
Broad-tailed hummingbird.
This one also is another 10. I like it. When I looked at it on my screen, and even when I look at it up there, everything about the hummingbird is just perfectly in focus. Its position, I guess we'll call it kind of rule of thirds, is in a good spot. So again, technically, I think this one was very well done. Lighting is perfect. Nothing's blown out. The only thing I would say is that sometimes with whether it be hummingbird photos and some of the nature photos, it's nice to get them here where they're by, say, like a bird feeder or something that is on the side. Although I would tend to go a little bit stronger with it, higher than a 10, I suppose, if it was like on a natural flower or natural foliage or something like that. I tend to like the images that I see where they're feeding on nature as opposed to hummingbird feeder. But that being said, this one was done well enough that I still gave it a 10.
Dancing.
This one I scored, and
8. There were just a couple of things. First of all, I love the title of it. Whenever I saw it and the word dancing, it showed. I can see the flower, the what would represent somebody's head, I suppose, and the two arms out to the side, legs kind of sticking out. So I could see the title just in the image itself. One thing, a couple of things real quick is whenever I looked at them real close and the petals were not perfectly in focus. I want to see the the main parts of the flower really perfectly in focus, and they were just a little bit soft when I looked at them closely. Another minor thing is maybe when I look at the fence that's in the background, it's a little bit distracting. I don't know. Obviously, it is where it is, so you can't get depth of field to have that go a little bit blurry. Maybe you could a little bit in what we have today and some of Lightroom and some of the programs and so forth, as far as using the depth masks that are in there to try and blur that background a little bit, make it a little bit less distracting. So yeah, I gave this one a 7.
Flora for 2, please.
Trying to read them. Excuse me, that last one I gave it 8. Sorry about that. This one it was a 9. Let's see here. There are a lot of things that I liked about this one. The two butterflies there, good position within the screen. I think the flowers that they're on, the flora, really nice and focused. The only thing that kept me maybe from going one bit higher is the top butterfly, the butterfly that's on the upper part, just a little bit out of focus on the tail. I know it's hard to do that. I don't know if this was done with a macro lens or whatever, and I know how hard it is if you don't have all your subjects just right on the same focal plane. It could be tough. But the back tail part of that butterfly was just a little bit softer than the other one. So, whereas I think it was a 9, right? 9.
Gliding Harris Hawk.
And this one I gave a 10. This was I think it's a hard photo to get. I mean, I know our cameras nowadays do a pretty good job of tracking wildlife, birds in flight, and so forth and that. But having said that, it still can be pretty tough to get them when they're flying straight at you like this. So I think technically that it was done really well there. I would maybe just do maybe a little bit more vignetting in that to kind of maybe bring my eye to the bird. I don't know if I need quite as much of the space down below. Maybe make it a little bit more of a panorama type deal. Those are just minor suggestions in that. Again, overall, I think it was done well. And when I looked at the bird's eyes, nice and in focus, which is not an easy thing to do. So I give that one a 10.
Golden, New Mexico.
So this one, I enjoyed the subject. I enjoyed looking at it. I gave it a 7, and there's a couple of reasons that I'll point out for that. I know we've had other judges in that I've heard them say, and I kind of go with the same thing, is that I don't necessarily want to reward or give high scores for what I feel is somebody else's art. And in this case, it's a picture of somebody else's art. I like the fact that there's 3 there. I think it was done pretty well there. But aside from that, it didn't have the impact on me that again, just being that it's a good photo of somebody else's art. So I thought it was pretty good. As far as the composition, I think is pretty good. Don't know if there's a way to do it where we don't get the beams up on the top, kind of have those out of there, maybe remove them. I don't think they add to it, but for a couple of those reasons, I gave that one a 7.
Yep. Morning Greeting.
So this one, this one I enjoyed as it came up. I gave it a 7. I didn't go higher, and part of it is there's, I guess, a lot going on here. I think the photographer did a pretty good job of getting those front two nice and in focus. I like the colors. I like the harmony with the greens and so forth. But they're in focus, but the other ones are, while they fall a little bit out of focus, I was just kind of I was losing my attention on what I think are the main front flowers when there's just a lot of things that were going on behind it that were kind of pulling my attention away from that. I don't know if there's a way to, and I've done this before too, we have scenes where you have flowers that are stacked one in front of the other, the other, the other, and the other. And it can be hard to find that angle. And this might have been just one of those situations where it's hard to find that angle where what can make a real strong image that there's an absolute center of focus. And so for that reason, I gave that one a 7.
Okay. Mothers of Mother Earth.
Okay. Hummingbird photos again. This one I gave a 9. I like it a lot. Again, I think it's framed well, not an easy shot to get, obviously, in that. I would say if you could get a little faster shutter speed and also freeze the wings of the mother hummingbird, that would help. That was the only thing I had on this one. It looks like there is some vignetting on there, so I won't make a comment of needing to vignette. I think my eyes go to where they need to go to on this one, so I think it was well done there. So yeah, I gave it a 9.
Painted Mirror.
This one also another 9. I know where this is. It's out near Crested Butte, a little bit north of it. I was out there fairly recently myself and kind of remember the scene. I think what I liked about this one here is really nice sky, like the reflections that are coming down. I'm fine with the fact that there's some of the branches that are in the foreground and that kind of give it that added depth. I do also like the light that's coming in from that upper left and still bouncing and putting some illumination over on those mountains that are right there in the very center part of it. So yeah, just overall a real nice image. So I gave that one a 9.
Summer Setting.
Okay, this one. Okay, so yeah, this one I gave an 8. I like the scene. I like where you were. It's a beautiful scene. Looks like you did a pretty good job also of with the water. There's when I looked at it, it's probably half a second, maybe third second, something like that, of getting the the right speed on the water to leave some texture, but also get that kind of nice creamy flowy look. As far as I think a couple areas that it could be improved a little bit. The bottom part, there's kind of the dirt that's over there on the left side of it. I think the very low part of it isn't needed. Maybe crop right up to where we don't have that dirt that's over there on the side left edge. And then with the sun stars, and I do these sometimes whenever I'm out and I see the opportunities for them also in that, to the extent that you can get it to where you have that sun just kind of pinching right up against a hard subject, say maybe that tree that's right there in the middle, you might be able to kind of get a more fine-tuned sun star in there. And then it just looked like it might be a bit overexposed on that part of it, which I understand is part of getting these kind of shots, is that sun is so bright relative to the rest of the scene. But with that, and then maybe just crop some of the top part of it out also in that, just in that there's some kind of super bright highlights that are up on that upper left corner and then just even right above the sun.
The Catch of the Day.
Let's see. Sorry about that. Just have to look at the. Okay, so I gave this one a 9. The story was good. I'm having a hard time even imagining that this thing grabbed that thing out of the sky, but I'm sure it was down on the water. But the fact that it shows an interest in it and it's over there tugging away at it, I think a real good scene. A couple things that might make it a little bit better is, and again, I don't know the situation that you had, if you had the ability to do, but like we had with the bird photographer that gave the presentation a handful of months ago, to the extent that you can get the perspective a little bit lower, if there's any way that you could get kind of that separate the bird from the water by getting a really low perspective, I think you would be able to do that, but still capture the dragonfly in the scene. So maybe so like a little bit different angle. This one, it's okay that it's in the middle. I would maybe crop some of the right side of it out. Still have the room that you have over there to the left, but that way we kind of move it more into kind of that rule of thirds type of deal. So crop a little bit off of the right and then maybe crop some off of the top. Just tighten it up a little bit.
Tourists overboard.
Okay. This one I gave a 9 and almost went higher. Was this year? Was there water in that river, Clear Creek? But the fact that I can again what I really like about this one right here is the expressions. We've got I can just imagine myself being in the water and how cold it is coming through there, and you've got the guide back there pointing and giving instructions and that to the people who probably have fallen in and are trying to figure out where they're going to go. So this one I really did enjoy. Again, it's kind of an action shot, not something you can go out there and plan on photographing. Compositionally, I think it's really well done. I love like I say, just the expression, particularly those who are in the water, are that element of surprise, right? It happens so suddenly, and now trying to figure out where you're going to go. So I gave it a 9 and was so close to giving that one a 10.
Okay. Tree of Life.
So this one I gave a 9 also. I was trying to figure out exactly what it was. I think I'm not going to try and guess at it, but maybe some type of a fruit or vegetable or something like that that's dried, that's been or frozen or something like that. I'm not sure exactly. So it has sort of that abstract element to it, which is great. And when I looked at what I really liked about this one was just, again, the colors, the tones, really nice and sharp in all of the areas that I want my eyes to go see. I kind of like the little bit of the highlights that are mixed in with that kind of the veins type of look that's in there. So yeah, this one I really enjoyed. I gave that one a 9.
Two-tailed swallowtail butterfly.
So this one I gave a 10. When I looked at this one here, it was really it's very sharp. The including the flower that it's feeding on, and then the butterfly throughout was really sharp. I love the angle that you were able to get it at too, where it's not just up and looking down, but you've got the wings that are exposed and upright, and it almost looks like it's standing right there for you. So those opportunities with butterflies just don't happen every day, and that so you happen to catch a really nice one here. And I also like just the colors and the tones and everything that is in there. So this one I did give a 10 to.
Weasel warning.
This one, so this one I like. I love the expression on it. I gave it an 8, and again, I love the expression. I think the focus is really nice on the animal. It looks like a pika to me, but I'm not sure what that is. It looks like a pika to me. What I would suggest, maybe what's hard, and I've photographed these up at Mount Blue Sky before and so forth, and sometimes it's just tough if it's in the daytime and they're up against the rocks. The rocks are real bright and they sort of blend in. So if there's an ability to get them whenever they're in a little bit of a darker environment or something that they don't blend in, that can help. The other thing that I was going to make the suggestion on this one is maybe do a select subject and then darken some of those brighter spots of the rocks that are around it. I think that would bring my eye more to the animal itself. So a little bit of dodging and burning, and with select subject, I think you could probably create a mask of select subject or select background and just use that background. And if that selects that properly for you, just go through and take down some of the exposure on some of the surrounding part of it.
Okay, we have 410s.
Oh,
All right. These are the 410s.
okay.
This one.
It's gonna be between the two on the left. The train. The other two are fantastic too, by the way. Like I said, but I had a couple of things that I mentioned that I would maybe change on those a little bit. And those two on the left, it's tough to break that tie. I think that the train was very well done. I'm gonna go with that one.
Do you want to see both of those again, or
Let's do that. Let's do that.
there's the train and here's the broad-tailed hummingbird?
Oh no, it was the other one. It was the swallowtail, the swallowtail.
Sorry.
Yeah, you're right. You're right. Yeah, that one is so good too. I said the train. I mean, this one's great. It's got a little bit of kind of hard brights and so forth in it, and that you can diffuse. Except when you're photographing butterflies, you don't have the time to hold the diffuser over and do that. I think if it was somehow diffused a little bit, I would probably swing that one. But otherwise, I'm gonna stick with the train one.
Okay.
All four of those are fantastic.
All right, we're going to go to advanced color. Our first one is bring home food. Bring food home. Sorry.
So yeah, fantastic photo of these the anchovy, super sharp where the anchovies are every single one of those eyes like so nice and focused. The bird just really nice and focused. I gave it a 9. It's just as far as the composition, it's a little bit tight, but I think for this one here it works because that is obviously no matter whatever the composition was going to be, this is going to be the main part of it. So I don't think that really takes away from it. It's a little bit of a tight composition, but it works. The only other thing is again kind of like what I was talking about on one of the other images is with the I think it was a pica. If you select the background and then everything outside of the bird, just do a little bit of burning back in there, I think the bird would stand out better against that background. It's nice that it's soft as far as the depth of field and so forth, but just as far as the brightness of it, I think that could be taken down a little bit, and I think this one would immediately jump up to a 10.
Ball path.
So this one, I like. Again, I like the story. I like the colors of it. Right, we've got the fall foliage that's on the ground. We've got the red. I think the red jacket works real well within the whole scene. I gave it a 8. A couple of the things it just is a little bit bright in a couple of areas that were kind of pulling my eye. I'm fine with that back center kind of where he's walking towards is bright. I'm fine with my eye going in that direction because it's keeping me locked in on the child there. But there's a couple of things I would maybe crop a little bit down and out if there's a way to not have the big bright spot of the thickest tree that's in there over on the upper left. And it may have already been burned down some, but it still is kind of pulling me over there with just the brightness of that one section of it. So if there's some way either via cropping, maybe crop it all the way down to where we don't have all of that upper part of I'll say the upper third of the scene, just partly just to get rid of that one big log. I think the rest of the image would still hold together and do well. So again, I gave that one an 8.
Fresh catch.
I gave this one a 9. These osprey are fun. I went out one evening and they're not easy to photograph. Trying to get the right position and the right angle. I on this one here, I think maybe just as far as it doesn't need to be in the center, I would maybe crop a little bit off of the right and kind of making sure that I still have the room over on the left for it to fly out to. Maybe a little bit of, again, same kind of thing, burning down a little bit of the brightness that's over on the water surrounding it. I do like the fact that you caught the trout. I'm sure it's a trout with the eye, and that eye is nice and in focus. I wish I had a little bit more light on the bird's eye, maybe brighten that a little bit just in post-processing. But again, just a little bit of darkening of some of the waters surrounding it and kind of bringing the the bird and the fish more in there. So that was a 9.
Friends.
I like the title of this, and it looks like there's just the one flower from down below that just happens to pop right in between a couple of the petals of the main subject flower. I gave this one also a 9. I like the colors of it. I think this one here definitely works with being in the center. It's a strong impact photo from that standpoint. Maybe burned down a little bit, may have already been done, but just some of the little twigs and things like that that are in the background. A little bit distracting, not overly distracting again. So I gave it a 9 because I didn't see those as being hugely distracting, but I do like the photo, and the main subjects were nice and in focus.
Okay. Hang in there, boo.
Okay, this one I did give a 10. I thought so. Yeah, this one, the expression and the composition I think is really good. Yeah, there's some bright spots in the background that could maybe be darkened down a little bit. Again, with the select background and take that down, and then particularly some of the brighter white spots back in there. But having said that, they're not taking me away from what I'm supposed to be seeing here, which is the bear. Just amazing expression. I like the fact that you caught, even its left paw up on there, and it's wrapped around. I like that we can see that. So there wasn't anything for me not to like about this one, so I did give it a 10.
He went that way.
I love the sharpness of this one. Hummingbird looks like it's on a electrical wire, some kind of something like that. But a great photo, great. The look of the sharpness was really well done. I don't know if just from where you were, if there's a way to get an angle that maybe doesn't have that hard, bright lights up in the upper left. Again, if you could half a step to the left and try and photograph the other direction, maybe that removes that. But again, I don't know if that was a possibility there. But that would be the only thing that kept me from going a little bit higher on this one here, was just the fact that my eye is once again kind of going to another bright part of the scene up there.
High above the others.
This one was also yeah. This one was also a 9, fairly similar to the other floral image that we saw just moments ago. What I liked about this one is, yeah, high above the others, right? The title says it. So the other ones do fall a little bit less in focus. Maybe there'd be a way to get even a little bit wider aperture. I'm not sure if it was, especially if it was taken with a macro lens or whatever. But even if not, if there's a way to get a little bit less focus on, I'm looking at the flower that's right below it, even though it's not as in focus as the main subject, if there was a way to get that a little bit less in focus, so it's not quite, so it's a little bit less distracting. But having said that, I like the composition otherwise with the positioning of the main flower. I like that we have some color behind it with particularly with those two purple flowers. So with that, I gave it a 9.
Permission to take off.
And this one I gave an 8. Yeah, this one I gave an 8. I love the bird. I love the scene. I love this. Again, with wildlife and birds and so forth, if there's ever the opportunity to have them facing you as opposed to having, the tail or the rear end being the closest part of the animal or bird towards you, and again, it still is a great photo. It just, and I'm sure that looking at it, it's sitting on a cliff. I'm sure that you don't have the ability to go out and get in front of it just because there's probably a cliff right there to the left of wherever you're standing taking it. But that was the only thing, is just, maybe the position of it, nothing maybe that you could have done in that circumstance. But again, with birds, wildlife, and so forth, to the extent that I can have them looking a little bit towards me as opposed to away from me would be the only comments on that one. So I have an 8 on that one.
Technicolor drops.
So I was trying to figure this one out. I gave it a 9. I like the I was trying to figure out how it's done, because the drops are spaced out. It's not just running water. I'm not even guess it like how it could be done, because running water, they're all going to be stuck together or not have that space apart. I don't think it's something that you could do on a flat plate where you put the water droplets down. Just again, because we have them in nice straight lines. I suppose there's probably a technique for doing that. I just don't know what that is. But I like so maybe that's what this is maybe a glass plate and it's laid down, and somehow you managed to draw lines with the solution that got them to line up like that. Anyways, I think it looks beautiful. I think this is the kind of thing that a lot of times we'll see people hanging up on walls and so forth, and that from an art standpoint, the color harmonies are real nice and work with it. So I liked it quite a bit, and that was a 9, right? Yeah, 9.
Waiting for the monsoons.
So this one, we can all relate to. Where are those monsoons that we're supposed to be getting, right? I think we have like a day and a half of it or something like that. But just I gave it a 10. I and part of it was the story of that, where we're kind of living through this dry summer that followed the dry winter that we had. And I kind of like the haze that's in there. I first questioned a little bit about, do we need that much sky? Would it make a good pano? I think it would. I think some of the sky could be cut out, but then at the same time, I kind of like that upper cloud that's up there. Some of the I'll say beams that are sort of coming off of it and upward, just the shape of that. So for that reason, I didn't feel there was a strong need to be able to do that. So I like the tones of it. I like the kind of that, I don't know if it's mist or if it's just some of the smoke that we've been dealing with and that's down there. Given the color of the sun that's back there, I'm sure that some of that just has to do with this smoky skies that we've been dealing with for far too long. But so I did give that one a 10. I just like I like the overall scene. It had impact to me.
Okay. Weathered haze.
Yeah. And this one I also gave a 10. Again, I think it's well done. I'm fine with the fact that his right, I guess we'll call it a paw, is a little bit out of focus and it's kind of close to the scene, but it's not pulling me away from the impact that came up right there with snow monkey, I guess this is. And then when I look at there's what this animal has been through, with the scratch, I guess those are scratch marks or something like that. It's over on camera left of his face. And then all of just the droplets on the fur that are throughout there. I think the crop on this one works, where we've cropped even into part of the top of its head. I don't need to see the rest of the top of the head. I don't need to see anything else that's back there. This is bringing my eyes right to the main part of it real fast. So once again, I mentioned earlier impact. This one, when it came up, it had that immediately. So I gave that one a 10.
Okay. That is all of the advanced digital color, and in there you have 3 10s.
It's going to be between the one on the left and the one on the right. But once again, both so good. There were just a couple comments that I made of suggestions on the bear one that, again, it still is phenomenal, but I didn't see anything wrong with the snow monkey one. So I'm gonna I'm gonna do that one, the one on the right.
We'll go to the Pro Color. And our first image is Albandera Arch Cave.
So this one I gave a 10. Again, right away, the impact of just the colors that are in the scene, the wave, I think the timing of, the wave crashing on that rock that's right there in the center. The composition is really nice in that we've got that gap between the arch that's back there and the cave rock that's the darker rock there. There's tough to get this shot to get the detail of the darks and the shadows and so forth when you got so much bright stuff that's back in the background, but definitely was able to make that. I mean, it really came out really nice with that. I like again, not just the crashing wave on that center rock, but also just the flow of the water. I like the lines that are, you can see here where there was a wave that came in earlier and that wave is going out and that's creating some of the stratification, the white lines in the water on that left side and the right side. So you've got that as part of the texture. And then of course there's the arch. Let's not forget about that, right? I think it's the timing of day, the light on that, the colors on that. I'll really work with it. So I gave that one a 10.
Bursting with Color.
So this one, and again, I went with the technical elements on this one here. I gave it a 10 also. It's just the colors of the reds, a little bit of purplish that's in there. There's no harsh light on it, so I don't know what environment it was photographed in. A lot of times whenever I'm trying to photograph these, to the extent that I can get diffusion over it and diffuse that light, my guess is that probably was done here. That way there's no real hard highlights, no shadows. It really makes the flower really stand out. And then just the amazing depth of field that's back in there in that too, where even the stem starts to fall off a little bit there. I like that it's going down into the corner. And then immediately everything else back in there supports the image from a color standpoint, but there's nothing that's bright or distracting back in there. So I gave that one a 10.
Catching Some Rays.
I love this one too. I gave it a 9, and this is when I was on the fence. I couldn't give too many 10s, I guess, but I love the fact that the light is catching the bird right there on the chest and the beak, the face, the eye. The only thing on it that maybe kept me from going one number higher is, again, just a little bit of the brightness that's up there in the upper right. Maybe some vignetting could pull that down a little bit, or just a little bit of dodging and burning in that. But that was the only thing. But aside from that, it's beautiful and just sharp as could be. I mean, it really is incredibly sharp.
Fragments of Grandeur.
I just love these scenes of, especially something, whether it's modern or whether it's obviously been there for a few years. I gave it a 10, and I just like the textures that are throughout, but then my eye goes right and follows the steps and primarily the rail, right? Where we're really looking at it here is we lose the steps part way up, but what we retain is the rail, and just the way that is kind of highlighting the nice section that leads right up to the very top there. So I gave that one a 10.
Secret Cove at Sunset.
I'm going to kill myself again with the tiebreakers on this, but this one was a 10. Again, I mentioned earlier, like when things come up and there's impact, this one had a lot of that for me. Just the light and shadows, the coloration of the rocks, I want to say the exposure time, the long exposure really works well with this one in terms of what it does with that water down in there with the white against the blues and streams and just how that gets darker, the water gets darker as we get out deeper into the ocean back in the background. And then not to mention that you also get an interesting sky to go with that. It's just not fair. But the other thing I really liked about it too is when I look at the water and I look at the composition, you can follow the water all the way from the very front part of it, all the way through to the back and out. And there's no place where there's an intersection of rocks against other rocks that are blocking that path. So I think I'm guessing that was done intentionally, but it really worked for this. So I give that one a 10.
Vivid silence.
I'm gonna have to add one more to the tiebreaker list here. So this one also is a 10. Again, just beautifully done portrait with just the skin and so forth. You can tell the retouching was done very well, but not overdone. We still have detail where details need to be held, meaning that we didn't make the skin look like plastic in that. The lighting just really good, just the way that we've got light shadows across there. And I wish I could give the photographer credit for this part of it, but I just the eyes, I guess I'll say this, just catching the expression is part of it, but the eyes are just the way that her eyes are, I'll have to give her part of the credit, not the photographer, for the fact that those look like that. But again, it's the expression, that the kind of that, not a big smile, but kind of that not necessarily a concerned look either, but just a curious type of look. Colors throughout, I think it was very well done, and so I gave that one a 10 also.
There you go.
Oh, it's hard even to narrow down to 2 or 3 of these, right? The 2 on the left and then that last one would be the 3 that are my tiebreakers. So now I think it's between those 2 bottom ones.
That one.
Yeah.
And that one.
And what's so impossible here is you have this amazing portrait photo, an amazing landscape photo. Trying to say one is better than the other is like impossible on this one. That landscape one, just both of them had huge impact. I'm gonna do the landscape one, the one on the lower left. Any of these 5 would.
Secret Cove at sunset.
Yeah. And I apologize to the other 4 up there because they all deserve the.
We're going to go to the black and white now. We're going to start out with the beginner intermediate. And the first one is Alert Velvet Antler Elk.
Okay, I'll go a little bit faster. This one I gave a 7. I love the expression on the elk. The parts that held me back a little bit on it were that the fur was a little bit kind of soft. Just the texture on the fur didn't look supernatural to me when I was looking at it. And there's just like the scene is beautiful, but there's just a lot of things going on there, other things to kind of pull my way away from it. So I gave that one a 7.
Okay. Anini Beach 2.
So this one was interesting. When I first pulled it up, it took me a minute to kind of figure it out. I gave it a 9. And what I like about this one is, again, when I'm looking at the black and whites, I'm looking at the tonal range. I'm looking at what was the maker looking at? What was the photographer thinking about on this one? But also, I just like the way the leaves that are in the center. I think the shadows and highlights were done well, and I like the texture of that against the texture of the log that's sort of framing it. I think to find that framing in that is part of what I really liked about it. So I did give that one a 9.
Astoria Sandpiper.
Okay. This one I gave a 9. I really liked the photo. I think if the photographer could, and again, I don't know the situation, get down a little bit lower and put more of that separation back behind it, I think that would be great. There's a little bit of I don't know if it's a leaf or something like that. I like the bubbles in there. I mean, I like the texture in that. There's a little leaf in there that would be probably easy to take out. It's in the lower left part of it. There's a vignette here, and I think sometimes the vignette works. I think maybe it's just a little bit strong on this one, is that my eyes see it versus it being kind of subtle in that. So that was part of what pulled me away from that. from a higher score on that one. But overall, like I said, I just love the scene, and I give that one a 9.
Bent by time.
The dancing aspens. Yeah, so I gave this one a 9. I like it. I think and it's a unique composition, right? Shooting it from straight down below versus what we oftentimes see in fall scenes or whatever that of these trees. Maybe just compositionally a little bit. I don't know if there was a way to not cut part of that right trunk off, since we've got the full trunks on the other one. If maybe just take a half a step back or below, or slightly wider lens if available, or whatever, that just to not cut part of that off. But overall, I thought this was a beautiful scene. Nice black and white photo.
Desolate beauty.
This one, and this one I enjoyed. I gave it an 8. I like I like the composition with the 3 trees there. I think, they have, bring, and they kind of lead my line back into the back part of it. I didn't, the reason I didn't go a little bit higher on it is there wasn't anything, other parts of the scene that really struck me or just brought, high impact level to me in that. I think that the tones are fine. Maybe crop a little bit off of the left. I don't know if that brighter thing on the lower left is necessary. So yeah, I liked it, but I gave it an 8. Just it didn't have a super huge impact whenever I first pulled it.
Forest lace.
Okay, so this one I gave a 7. I like, snow and trees and texture and so forth, and that I think are well done. There's maybe a little bit of vignetting on the corners that for this scene, I don't know that's needed quite like that. And it would, again, from an impact standpoint, I kind of like, I like the snow. I like the contrast of that versus the tree. The snow on the ground is nice and white, but that being said, it wouldn't be natural to have those corners be a little bit darker. So that was part of what took my score down a little bit to a 7.
Kings in rest.
And this one's a 9. And again, this is a great capture with just the companionship of the 2 lions there. I think, the composition is really good. Sort of like what I was talking about on a few of the other ones, in that the tonal range of the lions is pretty a lot the same as kind of the background in that. So I think if there was a way to get back into that background and darken that a little bit, I think that would bring the faces of the lions and separate them a little bit more from that background. So really enjoyed it. I gave that one a 9.
Memories.
This one I like, again, is a black and white, and I'm just again, the title, right? Memories. There's a lot in there, whether it be musical notes from a music book. It's a collection of somebody's family that I'm sure is very meaningful, and it's nice to see all of that put into an image like this with, different parts, different things. Some things that are handwritten in there, notes and so forth that I'm sure are very relevant to this, and ancestors from years back, and that weddings, and again, a lot of history that's going on there. I gave it an 8 just in that there wasn't like one part of it that grabbed me, and while I like the story and I know it has a lot of significance to the family, just as an image for myself, it didn't pull me up into the higher score categories in that. But overall, I think it was well done.
Pure joy.
So I like this one. I gave it an 8. I think it's, a great capture of down at either a lake or beach or something like that. Dog went out and chased this and is coming back. I like the texture on on the dog. The eye looks real good on there. Um, Again, maybe darken a little bit of the top part of the water, maybe a little linear gradient or something like that to not pull my eye up to the brighter parts up there. And then the other thing I looked in the maybe a little bit, the shutter speed is fast, but maybe could be just a little bit quicker to get that front left paw sharp. It looks like there's just a slight, it's probably the fastest moving part of all that dog's legs, and it just got a little bit soft. Not far off, it's real close, but it was a little bit off there. So I give that one an 8.
Shadow's Edge.
Oh, okay. I like these types of scenes in that. I try and do them myself whenever I see light hitting a particular area. I gave it an 8, and part of it was, and these are really, when you have this much contrast going on, it's hard to avoid. But some of the darks, particularly the lower left, I'll say the triangular area, we pretty much lose all detail throughout all of that. And I'm not one of those. I know a lot of times I've heard judges say, well, the blacks are too black and you don't have any detail in it. And to me, I'm usually okay with that as long as it's not a quarter of the scene. But in this case, there's so much of the scene that is in that dark black that caused me to go to like an 8. It's hard to get those kind of photos and retain that real dark area.
Sun setting at Vancouver Mariner.
Okay, this one I gave a 7. I love the scene. There was, I think it just had to do with a little bit of the processing when I looked at it. I mean, it's sharp throughout, but maybe that's in lies a little bit of the problems that there's sometimes the heavy sharpening on some of these types of scenes in that. There's a little bit of haloing around some of the buildings. And then in particular, there's some haloing around some of the masts and that on the sailboats over to the left. There's just, when I say that, there's like a little bit of a white edge against the dark beams that are sticking up in that. So that sometimes in high dynamic range images, and when you push highlights way down and you push shadows way up and you push sharpening way up, you tend to get those in that. So it was more of the processing, but overall, I like the scene too.
Okay. Union Pacific Big Boy 4014.
Okay, again, another one of these train images. This one I like. I like the black and white aspect of it. I gave this one a little bit lower of a score than the other one that I saw of a train earlier. This one I gave an 8, and part of it was, and it was just when I was looking at it, same thing that I had with that last image. There's just some of the edges that look like they have this unnatural glow to them, like a little bit of a halo. And the areas that I'm looking at, it particularly like along the top edge of the train as it goes up against the sky, there's just like that really bright edge there. And over where the flag is over on the left, the flag stand, I guess the mast that it's sitting on, it's dark, and right next to it, there's some unnatural looking bright sections to that. So I gave that one an 8.
West Theater.
So we're almost there. This one I gave a 7, and there were a couple of things. I like the image. I'm sure there's a lot of stories of this old theater type building and that with still has shows running in that with it. There was a couple of things that were going on with this one here. Up right above where there's the west sign, there was a dark spot there that looked to be like it might be a dust spot. It wasn't perfectly round, but there's something there that didn't look like a cloud to me. Let's put it that way. And same thing on this one here. I had a little bit of the kind of muddiness and haloing that goes right along some of the edges of that part of the sign. And then I was trying to figure out the upper right, it goes really dark, and there's a couple dark areas within the scene. And it didn't look like that was very natural. I don't know what would be causing that. It doesn't look like it's a intended vignette. So there's something else that was going on with that that I couldn't exactly tell. So I gave that one a 7.
Wrong neighborhood.
Great capture. I gave this one a 9. Uh, again, if the bird was a little bit more in focus, but at the time you weren't anticipating this. So to try and think that you needed to get the shutter speed up to 1/2000th of a second or whatever that would have frozen that, you probably weren't even thinking that when you took this. Because then it would be an absolute 10 if that was sharp. But again, not anticipating it, I can't fault you for it. Having said that, nothing else I'm going to say wrong about this photo. I think the capture is truly amazing. So I gave that one a 9.
Okay, we don't have any 10s, but we have a bunch of 9s.
You don't have to pull them up just for the sake of time. I know we're running a little bit tight. I'm going to give it to that last one that we had there.
Okay.
Yeah, I
And the
think
wrong
that's.
neighborhood.
By the way, the other ones are the other 9s were fantastic. If there was one that I was closest to going a 10 on, it was that last one.
Okay, we're going to go jump to the advanced. Our first one is Before the Deluge.
Okay. So I gave this one a 10. Right away, I think, the buildings all nice and straight, architecturally and so forth, and that it looked good. I like, this is one of those ones where I just like the story. This is like, a beautiful place. They're getting some rain. People are wearing umbrellas. The ground is wet, and I think that adds to this scene. It gives it a little bit more sheen than if it was no clouds and dry streets and that. I like the way that the clouds, dark, light. Like I say, just an overall, I think just a beautiful scene. So I gave that one a 10.
Competition.
So I gave this one a 9. This is tough. I really like this one. I think maybe it doesn't need quite as much space over to the right. I do get that the one is looking over that direction and that, so we want to leave some space there. But there was some empty space in here that I think didn't need to be in there. So maybe cut off a little bit off of that right, and then in order to preserve the rule of thirds, I guess maybe cut a little bit off of the left. You know, it would be ideal, I think, to me, if the two rams were separated, they didn't have the little overlap there with their horns, but I get that that's not always possible. But those were the only couple things that kept me from going one score higher than that.
Okay. Did you get rain at your house?
No. So I like this one here. I gave this one a 9. Again, the composition dead center, and that definitely works for this one right here, just the way that is. I like that you have the bees are on opposite sides. They're not overlapping each other, and that I think they're really nice and sharp. I like the fact that there is water there, meaning maybe we did get rain, or maybe, yeah, we'll just say maybe that was one of those few days that we saw some rain. So I gave it a 9. Didn't have anything negative to say on that one. I liked it.
Dreaming of Winter.
Okay. I gave this one a 9 and was real close to going one more higher than that. I think again, not a lot, nothing negative to say. The photos of bison with snow and especially ice around the eyes and all that are always really impressive in that. And this one, I thought the tight composition worked on it, and that this is the part that you want us to see, and we're definitely seeing it. So I gave that one a 9.
Fading into the Jungle.
Okay, another 9. So this one, again, I think these animals are amazing looking in that. And I think this one here is done well. Catching them out there in the wild is amazing. The thing that kind of pulled me away on this one here, and obviously there's nothing you could do with it, or change, given it's headed one direction and it's there's nothing you're going to do to try and persuade it to come towards you. But just the again, it's sort of that brightness of the ground and the weeds and things like that that are right there below its feet. It's the light on the lion or the tiger, I should say, is beautiful, but unfortunately, it's a little bit distracting to have the bright parts that are down below that. So, you probably tried to burn that down a little bit, maybe a little bit more of that, I think could help it. Maybe burn, there's a couple little bright spots that are up there to the upper right or whatever, and that just kind of bring that eye right into the tiger, I think. But the challenge is going to be to take down the other bright spots enough to get there.
Feasting.
This one I like. I gave this one a 10 in that here's what I liked about it is that just the sharpness and then the depth of field that you have here. It's in a beautiful environment there with the grasses that are down below it. Those look great. I think the way that it's framed within that, a little bit of framing with some foliage over on the left, and then just enough fall off of everything towards the back. You could possibly do a select subject and then, or a select background, I should say, and darken some of the stuff that's back behind this moose. But just the other big part of it too is just the water dripping off of the mouth, the jaw, the lower jaw, all of that part of it. And then it's nice and in focus and it stands out. So I did give that one a 10.
Sanctuary of Shadows.
This one I enjoyed. I gave it a 9. And again, I think a lot of it is done really well. The tonal range of it, we have some darks into black, but not overwhelming on that part of it. Plenty of bright spots in there. I was trying to think of myself as like, well, if I was taking the shot, would I take a couple steps over to the right and try and get something that has kind of that symmetry in that? And I don't know if that was possible. Not that it's needed though. Having said that, I kind of like what I see here of having a little bit of structure and kind of the things that are over on that left leading me down. And then, my eye goes, the shadows that are coming across on the floor, I think are really nice. And then it leads me back to the focal point all the way back to the back there where we've got that window behind. So, I like that one a lot and I gave it a 9.
Sweet Landing.
This one I gave a 10. It's and just having tried to photograph bees unsuccessfully plenty of times, trying to catch them in flight like this right here. And I think as the black and white, I think this one here was really well done. I like, the bee is in flight, it's moving, it's nice and sharp. And I think the other elements that are within this flower are also really nice and sharp. And then we've got the nice fall off of depth of field for everything back behind it. So I gave that one a 10.
We had 3 10s.
I think I'm gonna go with the last one there, the bee. Although it's between that one and the moose. It really is. But I like the I'll say it, the black and white effects of the flower with the bee sort of have more impact to me just from the tonal range part of it. So I'm gonna go with that one. Just in the black and white category, I really like the way that one was done.
Now, your most difficult category.
They've all been difficult.
This is the Pro Digital Black and White, clinging to the edge.
Yeah, there'll be some tiebreakers on this one too. Again, we talked the tonal range, the scene, the buildings. I love how we've got, the boats down in there. They give us a little bit of contrast down there on the water. And then just the way that the sun is coming across and lighting up the buildings all to the left. And then on top of that, you've got, nice clouds in the sky that give me some depth back in there. We've got a lot to look at over there. So I guess you probably already figured out that that's a 10, right?
Illuminated Monolith.
Yeah, well, again, so yeah, this is another one of those that's going to be in the tiebreaker category. 10. Again, another one that is done really well with, there's detail in the darker parts of the dark, but at least there are dark parts in the scene. And then the total range that goes all the way up to the brighter parts of particularly that upper rock as a reflection, as would be expected. We get that part's a little bit not quite as dark as the actual scene from the top. And so that just brings more of that complete tonal range because of that, the way that that reflection gets treated that way. Texture throughout. So, yep, that one is a 10 also.
In the spotlight.
All right, so this another 10. And this one here, once again, just the light is beautiful on the part of the bird that we want the light to be beautiful, right? It just brings my eye right to the bird's face, the eye, the beak. Super good depth of field with it. Nothing in the background is distracting to me. And we still have all the detail throughout the darker parts of the scene, the tail part of the bird and that. So I think that one was also a 10.
Morning run.
So this is another 10. I just love the silhouette, the fact that somebody saw this and thought to photograph it in this way. It's not something that a lot of us just naturally think of when we're looking towards the sun and we see sometimes we're looking for silhouettes, but also now you have a silhouette of somebody who's actually in motion, and then just the textures and so forth of the trees and that. I mean, if I made a couple of comments on this one, I still think it's a 10, but I don't know that it needs everything over on the left side of it. I think maybe a little bit of that could be cropped out and it would still hold my attention. It would still look great. I love the silhouette effect of the ground that's down there below. I was looking at it, if there was like one thing, the runner's back foot, I couldn't tell if it was 100% fully in focus. It's pretty darn close though, so I wasn't going to ding it for that, but it was close. So that would just be a shutter speed kind of a thing of, was the shutter speed fast enough? But that could be me looking at it incorrectly too. So I put that one at a 10 also.
Strand.
Yep, that's a 10 also. I really have to really look at my sheet there, do I? But again, this is what we talked about earlier, that the tonal range. I just think the light, the expression, the textures and the hat, everything that the black and white photo makes this one right. I'm sure it would look great in color also in that, but just the black and white just gives me such great range of tones. And on this one here, just because the background is the background, I'm fine with that going. When I mentioned earlier in that about darks and too much blacks and blacks losing detail, but when it's a background such as this, that doesn't bother me. So I was good with that.
Thundering.
Oh, so it just makes sense that the last image in the category is also a 10, right? So again, the detail, so again, now we've seen a few photos of this train that was coming through this last week. Part of the challenge when we have something like this, and I know that the other ones that I saw earlier were also in a real nice location without distractions and so forth. Part of the challenge is, where do you go? You figure out what the route is for this train, and then, well, are there places along there that would be more interesting than others? And so I applaud somebody here for knowing enough to go to a point where I think the position of this is great, just with the trestle that's there, the structure that the trestle goes. I think the black and white treatment on this one is really good. Yeah, you just happen to catch the steam coming off of there too, which is pretty amazing. So there was Oh, I was looking closely at the trees over on the far left. I couldn't tell if there was some masking of the sky, if there was like a little bit of light that was sort of coming through those, not necessarily halos, but it didn't look off enough to ding it for it, so I'm not going to. But overall, I think the sky looks beautiful. So that one was a 10 also. All of them.
All of them.
So I'm gonna say it's between the last one, the train, the first one. It's hard to rule out the bird, and it's hard to rule out the reflection one up there too. It's those four that are not making it easy. I'm gonna go with that upper left one. It just the other ones all have amazing impact also. That one, the first time I saw it, just the whole thing with the clouds and with the white boats down in there, I couldn't keep my eyes from just looking all over every single aspect of this one. So I'll go with that one.
Okay.
Very good. All right, for those of you at home, we will end the recording and we will see you all at the next meeting in just a few.
What was that?